Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thanks for making the time today to join me to learn more about connected logging devices. My name's Nicole and I'll be running today's webinar called ELogs, ELDs, and AOBRDs. What's the difference? The ELD mandate was announced back in December of 2015 and finalized in February of 2016. The implementation deadline is just 8 months away and people still have a lot of questions. That's because there's been a lot of misinformation and myths floating around about ELogs, ELDs, and AOBRDs, leading to a lot of confusion amongst owner-operators and fleets alike. Many owner-operators still aren't sure which tools they need to become compliant, if any. So with the mandate approaching soon, many of you are looking to make a decision and are doing your research to find out which solutions will suit your needs as an owner-operator, discovering what will keep you running in compliance with the law. During today's webinar, I'll explain the differences between ELDs, ELogs, and AOBRDs, tell you which are being mandated by the FMCSA, and help you find the right solution for you. Before we get started, I just want to cover a couple of housekeeping items. We'll be recording today's webinar and posting the video onto the Big Road blog. You can visit our blog at blog.bigroad.com. You'll find recaps here of all of our previous webinars, as well as information on what's happening in the industry, including new rules, regulation changes, and ELD mandate news. We post new content here twice a week, and it's a great source for industry news and an easy way to keep yourselves up to date. If you submitted questions with your webinar registration, I've done my best to answer them throughout the presentation. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can enter them into the question box located on your GoToWebinar control panel. The question box is located on the lower right side of the window. At the end of the webinar, I'll open the floor for a question and answer session. And during this time, I'll answer all of the questions submitted by you. So we do get a lot of questions during our webinars, so I apologize in advance if I'm not able to get to them straight away. Along with the webinar recording, I'll also post a recap of all of the questions that were asked and provide more detailed answers with links to any relevant content to help you out. Tomorrow, you'll be sent a follow-up email with the link to the recording and answers to the questions. Feel free to share this with anyone who might have questions about ELogs, AOBRDs, and ELDs. Okay, let's get started. So here's what we're going to cover in today's webinar. First, we'll briefly discuss the ELD mandate itself, why it's being implemented, and whether or not you need to worry about complying with it. Next, we'll talk about ELogs, which in bigger terms refers to electronic logbooks. From here, we'll go over the different terminology used for connected logging devices and highlight which devices will be compliant after the December 2017 mandate deadline. We'll discuss in detail the differences between AOBRDs and ELDs. And we will also discuss the 2-year AOBRD extension, which is very important for owner-operators like yourselves to understand and take advantage of. We'll have a little quiz on some frequently asked questions and common misunderstandings surrounding the connected logging devices, so pay attention so that you can test your knowledge. Next, we'll discuss Big Road's solution to the ELD mandate for owner-operators, and then we'll end the webinar by answering the questions that were submitted before and during the webinar. There are a lot of these, so I'll move fairly quickly through the content today to ensure that I can get you to the answers to the questions that you have. So as I mentioned earlier, the ELD mandate was announced in December of 2015 and finalized in February 2016. The first deadline for compliance is December 18th, 2017. At this time, all non-exempt CMV drivers will need to have an ELD or AOBRD installed in their vehicle. The final deadline is December 16th, 2019, and by this date, everyone will need to have a fully compliant electronic logging device installed in their vehicle. So if you've chosen an AOBRD or automatic onboard recording device, you will need to swap it with an ELD, or in the case of Big Road's Dashlink, you'll just need to do a simple software update to turn on full ELD functionality before that December 2019 deadline. We'll discuss this rule and the difference between AOBRDs and ELDs shortly. So electronic logging devices, better known as ELDs, are being mandated in order to better enforce and keep track of hours of service regulations while preventing fatigue driving and ultimately making the roads a safer place for everyone. The FMCSA's official statement on this is, ELDs make tracking hours of service easier and more accurate. This helps prevent both deliberate and unintentional hours of service violations and helps drivers avoid fines due to mistakes in paper logs. Improved compliance with hours of service rules helps ensure that drivers have had time for adequate rest and to operate commercial motor vehicles safely. More accurate and consistent hours of service records also facilitate enforcement and support carrier business operations, such as effective dispatching. So before we get into which tools you need in order to be compliant, let's find out if you actually need to comply. One question that we get all the time from owner-operators is, does the mandate even apply to them? So under the ELD mandate, owner-operators are required to use an ELD. There is no exemption based on being a single truck operation or an owner-operator. However, you might qualify for one of the following exemptions. The first exemption is drivers who aren't currently required to keep records of duty status. So for example, short-haul drivers would not need to run an ELD unless they run outside of the short-haul classification. Next is the 8 and 30 rule. This is for drivers who are required to keep records of duty status for no more than 8 days in a 30-day period. So the important thing to remember here is that this is a rolling window of 30 consecutive days and not a 1-month period. So before deciding you're exempt here, you'll need to make sure that you'll never go over that 8 days in a moving 30-day period. Next up is the drive-away, tow-away operations exemption. So if the vehicle that you're driving is part of the shipment, it's empty and for sale, lease, or repair, then you are not required to use an ELD. And the reason for this is that the FMCSA does not expect you to carry multiple connectors with you in order to have something that works with every vehicle, as you usually don't know what you'll be driving until the day of. There's also the pre-model year 2000 exemption. Anyone driving a CMV with a model year of 1999 or prior will not need an ELD and can continue to create records of duty status in the same way that they are today. This is because the technology and connections aren't compatible with older engines, and it'll be too difficult and costly for the FMCSA to expect drivers to comply. You can find your vehicle's VIN number by looking inside the door frame. And finally, there's the 100 or 150 air mile exemption. So if you're a local driver who only drives within a 100 air mile radius of your starting point, you don't currently need to keep paper logs, and therefore you won't need to have an ELD installed. This also applies to non-CDL freight drivers who drive within a 150 air mile radius of their starting location. To reiterate, owner-operators are not exempt from this mandate. So if you are a CMV driver who is currently required to keep a records of duty status, then you will likely need to comply with the ELD mandate, unless you qualify for one of the exemptions that we just outlined. An electronic log, also known as an ELog, is a generic industry term that has never had any official standing. Because of this, it's been used as kind of a catch-all for connected logging devices like ELDs and AOBRDs, as well as for electronic logbooks, which is essentially just an electronic representation of a paper log. This alone has caused some confusion because depending on how you're hearing the term used, it might mean an ELD mandate compliant device, and it might not, leading some of you who are currently using an electronic logbook app to believe that you are ready for the upcoming mandate. Unfortunately, an electronic logbook alone is not enough to run in compliance. We're going to go over this a little bit more later. For the purpose of this webinar, and in big road terms, we use the term ELog to refer to an electronic logbook like the Big Road mobile app. So your very first step towards compliance, if you haven't done so already, should be to get off paper logs and onto an electronic logbook. Electronic logbooks, like the free Big Road mobile app, have a ton of advantages over paper logs. They've been programmed to understand the DOT hours of service regulations, which makes managing your hours of service so much easier. Drivers who use paper logs often run into the same problems, like form and manner errors that are virtually eliminated when using electronic logbooks. This is because the app will do a lot of the work for you. It's even going to alert you to potential hours of service violations before they happen. And even little mistakes can be seen as a big deal to DOT officers, and they'll often result in a fine. So using an electronic logbook can save you money and help you protect your CSA score. Electronic logbooks are also great because you can cut down on the time that you spend on paperwork, which allows you to focus on the road. So although electronic logbooks can make hours of service tracking and compliance easier, it's important to understand that they are not an ELD mandate compliant solution. In section 395.2 of the ELD mandate, the FMCSA states that an ELD must be integrally synchronized with specific operations of the motor vehicle in which it is installed. So this means that it must be engine connected, which an electronic logbook is not. Engine connected devices like ELDs and AOBRDs connect to an app in order to communicate with and complete the automated logs. But an electronic logbook app alone is not enough to run in compliance after December 18th of this year. So there are a few different terms for engine-connected devices. The reason for this is that there were a few iterations of this upcoming mandate before it became finalized. The one that you'll hear most often is ELD, and depending on how long you've been in the industry, you are probably also very familiar with AOBRDs. You might even use or hear the acronym EOBR from time to time. Before we get into the differences between these and I explain what you need to comply with the mandate, let's briefly define them. So an ELD, or an electronic locking device, is a piece of hardware that is plugged into the ECM of a vehicle. When plugged in, an ELD automatically records information from the engine to record the driver's hours of service and other vehicle information. This is the most current term for engine-connected locking devices, and the one being mandated by the FMCSA. AOBRDs, or automatic onboard recording devices, have been around since 1988, when the FMCSA defined them as an electric, electronic, electromechanical, or mechanical device that connects to a vehicle's engine to automatically and accurately record a driver's duty status. So like an ELD, an AOBRD must be integrally synchronized with specific operations of the commercial motor vehicle in which it is installed. What many owner-operators don't know is that although ELDs are what's being mandated, if you have an AOBRD in place prior to the December 18, 2017 deadline, you can continue to use it until December 2019. And there are a lot of reasons that this is a great option, but we'll get into that shortly. And finally, EOBR stands for Electronic Onboard Recorder. It was defined as an electronic device attached to a commercial motor vehicle, which is used to record the amount of time a vehicle is being driven. It was the term that was originally supposed to replace AOBRDs and was originally proposed in 2004, but the ruling was never finalized, so this term is no longer relevant. For the purpose of this webinar, we're going to focus on comparing mandate-compliant devices, ELDs, and AOBRDs. There are a lot of similarities in the way that ELDs and AOBRDs operate, and actually both can keep you running in compliance with the ELD mandate. This is because as part of the mandate, AOBRDs can be grandfathered in and used for 2 years after the ELD mandate deadline. So to take advantage of this, you'll need to have an AOBRD that meets the FMCSA's definition of an automatic onboard recording device and has been installed prior to the ELD mandate deadline of December 18, 2017. If you have an AOBRD installed before that deadline, you can continue to use it as such until December 16, 2019. At which time you'll need to transition to full ELD mandate compliance. This is actually a really great option for a lot of owner-operators because AOBRDs offer more flexibility and it's a nice way to get used to this new way of logging so that you can switch when you're ready to. With our Dashlink, you can get it now and you're good until 2019. What I recommend you do, and what we're seeing most owner-operators do actually, is run it as an AOBRD and take advantage of those 2 extra years. You'll have more flexibility, like the ability to edit your logs, and time to learn the ins and outs of connected logging. Our Dashlink can also be run as a mandate-compliant ELD. So when you're ready to fully transition, either at the end of the 2-year AOBRD extension period or before, you simply perform a software update on your mobile device and you're running fully ELD mandate compliant. It really is that easy. There's no new hardware and no need to swap out equipment. So now that we know that ELDs and AOBRDs are similar in that they are engine-connected devices that automatically record drive time and vehicle information, producing accurate and automatic logs, let's find out where they really differ, which is in how much data they record and probably most significantly to you, how much data they display. So let's start by going over the differences in what is required by AOBRDs versus ELDs. According to section 395.15 in the Code of Federal Regulations, an AOBRD is required to read the truck, shipment, and other carrier information, as well as an hours of service summary, duty status changes, vehicle location, drive time, and device malfunctions. In general, electronic logging devices are more restrictive, and the rules surrounding them are much more specific than they are with AOBRDs. ELDs must record all of the data that we just touched on quickly, in addition to recording intermediate driving events, CMV status, so powering on and off, logging in and out, diagnostic data, and engine malfunctions, as well as unidentified driving events. In the next few slides, we'll highlight some of the differences in the way that each device records that information. So first is location. AOBRDs record a vehicle's location at the change of each duty status. There is no specification on how accurate the location has to be, and it can be manually entered by a driver. With ELDs, the location needs to be automatically recorded anytime there is a change in duty status, as well as every 60 minutes while driving, when the engine is turned on or off, and at the start and end of yard move or personal conveyance mode. The accuracy must be within 1 mile while on-duty driving for ELDs, or within 10 miles in personal conveyance mode in order to offer drivers some privacy. So it will be tracked to the nearest town or city rather than to the precise GPS location. Another example of how much more restrictive an ELD is than an AOBRD is the way they deal with duty status changes. An ELD is much more automated than an AOBRD, which also means that there is much less flexibility. For example, with an ELD, if a driver's vehicle has stopped moving for 5 consecutive minutes and the driver has not responded to a prompt within 60 seconds, their status will be automatically changed to on duty, not driving. Whereas an AOBRD is not required to change a driver's duty status when the vehicle is no longer in motion. How do personal conveyance and yard move differ when using an AOBRD versus when you use an ELD? Personal conveyance is when you're using your CMV when you're unladen for a personal reason. It is dealt with similarly in both AOBRDs and in ELDs. You are considered to be off-duty in both. However, the difference is in how specifically your location data and other vehicle information is recorded during this time. Every vehicle event, both off-duty and on, is recorded and displayed in an ELD. An AOBRD does not display this information except to say that you have changed your status to personal conveyance and the location of the vehicle. And then yard move is there for those instances where you are parked in a yard and asked to move your vehicle. You need to move to accommodate other drivers, or you're making small moves in a shipping yard. You just need to move a little bit and aren't really driving. So yard move allows you to move your vehicle a short distance, and with big road this is 5 miles at a time with no maximum speed, and you are able to use multiple instances of yard move if you require it. When running an ELD, you will need to be put into on-duty status in order to use this function. With an AOBRD, you are still able to use yard move without it affecting your hours of service, which is one of the many bonuses of using an AOBRD until the 2019 second deadline. So a lot of you will want to know what's available to edit and what is not in an AOBRD versus in an ELD. So essentially, an AOBRD allows you to edit pretty much everything except for your actual drive time. Drive time is one of those things that's actually pretty firm in both. With an AOBRD, you cannot edit drive time unless the driving was done in error. With an ELD, you cannot edit it at all. But with an AOBRD, you can still edit your vehicle location and you can change an event. So when you adjust your duty status from on-duty to off, or from on-duty driving to personal conveyance or yard move. With an ELD, you can't really change anything that has been automatically recorded. From the web application, there are a few very limited edits that you or an administrator will be able to make, but they will need to be annotated. For example, you can change your status from off-duty to on-duty not driving with a note that explains that you, let's say, logged training time incorrectly as off-duty. The edit and annotation need to be verified by you inside the mobile app, and the edit is not accepted until you confirm it from the mobile app and resubmit that record of duty status. Other than those limited edits that you're able to make, once an event has been recorded, it's virtually set in stone with an ELD. So this is another great reason to stick with an AOBRD for a little while. It's kind of a stepping stone into connected logging while you get adjusted to the restrictive new rules. So that brings us to the next point. If you make an edit, how is that recorded and who can see it? Well, an AOBRD will record who made the edit and when, but will not readily display the edit history. An ELD, on the other hand, will record the same information and more, and that information will be readily displayed to DOT officers. And I'm going to show you an example of what each of these logs would look like to a DOT officer shortly. Not only do AOBRDs offer more editability than ELDs, they also display a great deal less information. This means that DOT officers won't be able to see as much of what you're doing during the day when you use an AOBRD. Something that you'll also want to consider when making a choice is that DOT officers are very comfortable with AOBRDs, and the way that they display data because they've been around since 1988. However, they're still largely unfamiliar with ELDs, so they won't be as rehearsed during inspections with them. This means that until they do, and this might take some time, inspections will be going more smoothly when you use an AOBRD, which allows you to get back on the road faster. And actually, drivers who use Big Road's Dashlink report smoother inspections when enforcement officials see that they use Big Road's compliant solution. Inspectors even comment on how much they love Big Road because it's so easy to use for them. So perhaps the best way to explain the difference between AOBRDs and ELDs is to show you rather than tell you. Here, you'll see an example of a driver's log with an AOBRD. So this is what's visible to a DOT officer. In the log header, you can see that the driver, carrier, trailer, and shipment information is there. And then there's your duty graph, followed by your duty status events, including time, location, duration, and status. And this is what the same day of logs will look like with an ELD. So the log header and duty graph will look the same, but as you can see, there are a great deal more events recorded and displayed. So you can see under the duty graph that an ELD records and displays not only your duty status changes, but also the ELD status, CMV status, and each intermediate event. So every hour it records the time and location of your vehicle. And if they're present, ELDs will also show a list of diagnostic events and malfunctions as part of your daily logs. As you can see, the detail of each event is also expanded. So under an ELD, each event will include the time, type of event, vehicle location, odometer reading, engine hours, and event origin, so whether it was automatically recorded or manually entered by the driver. Let's just look one more time at the AOBRD daily logs here, now that you've had a chance to see what the logs look like when using an ELD. Much less information, right? Also a whole lot less complicated and easier to read. And then we'll flip back to the ELD daily log for contrast. So as you can see, using an AOBRD will offer you a lot more flexibility and simplicity than an ELD. And you'll be able to take advantage of that flexibility for 2 years after the ELD mandate deadline of December 18th, 2017. By choosing a solution like Dashlink, which can be used as an AOBRD and then easily updated to an ELD, you'll give yourself a smoother transition into connected logging and allow yourself to get comfortable with engine-connected logging devices before moving to the more restrictive ELDs. You'll also have less bumpy inspections with DOT officers who haven't had time to get comfortable with ELDs either. So let's do a quick little quiz to test your knowledge on ELogs, ELDs, and AOBRDs. And you can submit your answers right into the chat window there to see how you're doing. This one's easy. It's a true or false. If you're using an electronic logbook, are you ready to be compliant with the ELD mandate? Yes or no? So this one's false. An electronic logbook alone is not enough to be compliant with the ELD mandate. Question 2, which of the following drivers are exempt from the ELD mandate? Is it A, drivers who are required to keep records of duty status for no more than 8 days in a 30-day period? B, single truck operations? C, drivers who only operate within 300 air miles of their starting location? Or all of the above? Give you a couple seconds to submit that answer to me. And it's A, drivers who are required to keep records of duty status for no more than 8 days in a 30-day period. So single truck operations are not exempt, and the air mile exemption is for only 100 air miles or 150 air miles and not 300. If you have an AOBRD is the next question, when will you be able to transition to an ELD? I'll give you a couple of options. Is it December 18th, 2017, December 16th, 2019, or December 17th, 2020? And it's December 16th, 2019. Okay, a few more questions. So true or false, you can edit vehicle location with an AOBRD. This one's true. Next question is, you can use yard move without it affecting your hours of service with an ELD. Give you a couple minutes. So this one's false, but you can use it without it affecting your hours of service in an AOBRD. And then final question, what can DOT officers see in your daily logs when you use an AOBRD? I'll give you two options here. Can they see A, the time, location, and duration of duty status events? Or can they see unidentified driving events, duration of duty status events, and intermediate events? So the answer is time, location, and duration of duty status events. They can see those other events in an ELD. Okay, great. So we've covered a lot of information, and now it's up to you guys to find a solution that meets your unique needs as an owner-operator. Owner-operators like you have a lot of hats to wear in your day-to-day operations, and you're probably concerned about how this mandate will affect your bottom line. You need a solution that's going to make compliance easy for you without breaking the bank. And that's why I want to talk to you briefly about Big Road's Dashlink ELD and mobile app. It's the most affordable, reliable, simple, and flexible ELD solution available today. Let's start with the Big Road mobile app. This is our electronic logbook and hours of service management application. The Big Road mobile app is completely free for owner-operators and drivers to use and can be downloaded to a smartphone or tablet from the Google Play and iTunes stores. The Big Road mobile app takes the guesswork out of logging and enables you to easily create clean, inspectable, and error-free logs while accurately tracking your hours of service. And we're always hearing about how much drivers enjoy this app because it makes their jobs easier. They don't need to worry about wrong calculations, running over their hours, or getting a violation for something that's easily avoidable. This app is one of the top-rated apps for hours of service. We consistently get 4.5 and 5-star ratings from our users on both platforms. And you can give it a try for yourself by visiting bigroad.com/driver and enter your phone number into the bar at the top of the page. We'll send you a link to download the correct version for your device. You can also visit Google Play or iTunes and search for Big Road. And then finally, the solution that everyone should get onto if they need a mandate compliance solution, it's our Dashlink. With the electronic logging device deadline getting closer, owner-operators are starting to make the move, not only because they need to comply, but because they've seen how engine-connected logging can drastically improve their operations. When using an engine-connected device, potential hours of service violations disappear. These devices automatically do many of the things that you, as a driver, can get dinged for during a violation. And you're also going to be building up your record of clean inspections and compliance, while other owner-operators are still at risk from using paper logs and even electronic logbooks. Brokers will be more likely to select you if you have a clean record and are placing safety first. And then you'll also see reduced insurance rates, which can save you even more money. Our Dashlink really is the easiest and most affordable ELD mandate compliance solution that you're going to find on the market today. With no upfront hardware costs and a low subscription fee, you can have the tools you need to comply with the ELD mandate without worrying about what it's going to cost you. You simply plug the Dashlink device into the ECM of the truck, pair it with your Big Road mobile app via Bluetooth, and you're ready to go. So there's no expensive installation or permanent changes to your truck required. The device pulls the information directly from the computer within the truck so that you can focus on driving rather than logging. And as we covered, you can run Dashlink as an AOBRD until 2019. If before that you want to go fully ELD mandate compliant, you can do so with the flick of a switch. You control when you're ready to transition between AOBRDs and ELDs. So that wraps up our ELD Mandate 101 webinar. If you have any questions that weren't answered during the webinar, please enter them into the question box on the GoToWebinar control panel. And while we're waiting for those to come in, I just want to mention a couple of things. If you're interested in learning more about Big Road solutions, here's some ways that you can. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to download the Big Road mobile app and give our free electronic logbook a try. The address is up there on the screen, so it's bigroad.com/driver. And once again, you just enter your phone number into the box at the top of the page and we'll text you a link to download the correct version of the app for you. And then if you're interested in learning more about our Dashlink, visit bigroad.com/dashlink and fill out the demo request form. Okay, let's jump into questions. And there's a lot of them here. So Emily asks, The pushback from our owner-operators is lessening, but I'm still hitting a wall when it comes to a few ELD rumors and myths. In regards to personal use, what or how will the unassigned miles be accounted for? Unassigned driving events are tracked at the truck level. When a truck driver logs in and connects to the Dashlink in that vehicle, he'll be prompted to claim or reject any unassigned driving time. If he claims it, it's added to his logs, and if he rejects it, an administrator will either need to prompt someone else to claim the driving time or annotate the event for an inspection. Next is Bob, who asks, will drivers be able to change the start to noon rather than midnight? So currently we only offer midnight to midnight cycles, but I have added a note for our developers to add noon to noon in the future. If you email support@bigroad.com, they can offer you a few tricks that'll help you in the meantime. The next question is from Dick, who asks, our drivers stay within the 100 air mile radius most of the time daily. Would we need the ELDs? We do deliver once in a while longer distances. Would paper logs be sufficient for those runs, and for how long? I believe it's up to 8 times a month. So Dick, if you stay within the 100 air mile radius all the time, then you are exempt. As soon as you go outside of the 100 air miles, then you are required to run an ELD. The other exemption is the 8 and 30 rule. If you're keeping logs for no more than 8 days in a 30-day rolling period, not a calendar month, you are also exempt from running an ELD. The biggest thing for you to look at is how you are currently required to keep your hours of service. If you're running short haul, you are likely only keeping a time card and not a full record of duty status. The 8 and 30 rule applies to people who keep record of duty status for the 8 days. So if you're running long haul for more than 8 days in a 30-day period, then you will need an ELD. As soon as you go over that 8 days, you will need an ELD. So then Mike asks, and we've had a few similar questions, the FMCSA has a list of certified ELD providers, but since this is a self-certification process, how can you tell which providers are legit or just jumping in due to the mandate and have little to no previous ELD experience? The ELD self-certification list is exactly that. It's a list where vendors have said that their devices are compliant with the FMCSA's guidelines. So it's really important to note here that the FMCSA does not vet, endorse, or improve any device that's on the list. And that being said, just because they're on the list does not mean that they're legit at all. I can attest that a lot of people have just jumped on the list to make money off the mandate. And I'd encourage you to take a look at some of the vendors on the list and their materials so that you can be the judge of who's legit and who isn't. So it's worth noting here that a lot of major companies have not listed yet as they've taken the time to build a fully compliant ELD. And Big Road's been in the same boat. We have not certified up until this date. However, we will be submitting our application to self-certify at the end of the week and should be listed in the coming weeks, just because we don't know how long the FMCSA takes to view that documentation and add us to the list. The next question is from John, who asks, will the Big Road app on a cell phone be accepted as a grandfathered device until December 16, 2019? And how will enforcement recognize this after December 18, 2017? And we also had a similar question from William, who wants to know if he's signed up with Big Road's Dashlink before the mandate deadline. Will it be able to run as an AOBRD until 2019? And I'll answer both here. So first, in regards to the app, there are a lot of people that are confused about this, but no, the Big Road mobile app is an electronic logbook app, and no electronic logbook app on its own is compliant with the upcoming mandate. In order to comply, you will need to have an engine-connected ELD or AOBRD, something that plugs into a vehicle's ECM and automatically records your records of duty status. In order to take advantage of the grandfather clause, you can install an AOBRD, which is more flexible than an ELD, before December 18, 2017, and use it as an AOBRD until December 16, 2019. Big Road's Dashlink can be installed and used as an AOBRD, and when you are ready to make the move to a more restrictive ELD, so before the December 16, 2019 deadline, it can be done with a simple software upgrade. So there's no need to purchase new hardware. So once you have this installed, you can make the switch anytime. Either wait until December 2019 or sooner, depending on your comfort level. It's totally up to you. Enforcement agents already know what the AOBRD logs look like and have been trained on how to fully inspect them. The FMCSA is currently working with enforcement agents to train them on ELD inspections. And then Steve asks, will Big Road be considered an ELog? So, Steve, it depends on which Big Road solution you're using. The Big Road mobile app is an electronic logbook which helps you manage your hours of service, but on its own won't be compliant. I think the confusion here is that many electronic logbooks are referred to as ELogs, but a lot of people also use the term ELog to refer to engine-connected devices. In order to comply with the ELD mandate by December 18th of 2017, you will need to have an ELD or AOBRD installed in your vehicle. So again, Big Road Dashlink is an engine-connected solution that connects to the Big Road mobile app, and if you have a Dashlink installed by December 18, 2017, then you will be compliant with the ELD mandate. Next is from Zach, who asks, we use trucks and gooseneck trailers for the movement of our equipment and from job sites generally within 300 miles of our office. Our trucks range from 1 ton to 26,000 pounds, and trailers ranging from 9,250 pounds to 30,000 pounds. How is the electronic logbook evolution going to affect us, and what should we do to prepare? Our average workday consists of a 1 to 2 hour drive to the work site. We're on site for 14 to 16 hours, and then we drive another 1 to 2 hours back to our facility. Okay, so Zach, as a rule of thumb, if you're currently required to keep records of duty status, then you'll need to run an ELD unless you qualify for one of the exemptions that we outlined during the webinar. Commercial motor vehicles are classified with a gross vehicle weight rating of 10,001 pounds or more, so it doesn't look like you're going to get a weight exemption, and you're driving outside of the short haul exemption, which is 100 air miles, so you won't qualify for that one either. But for your lighter vehicle, if you still want to keep a record of duty status, you can do so with the Big Road mobile app, and then just have Dashlink running in the rest of your vehicles so that all of your drivers can be under one solution. So I have a question from Aram that says, what does an AOBRD stand for? So that's an automatic onboard recording device. And then Gerardo asks, what's personal conveyance again? So personal conveyance is when you are basically operating outside of the direction of a motor of your carrier. So you're using your vehicle unladen and for personal use only, and you're off duty. Steve asks, will this be archived? Yes, so we're going to add this blog to, we're going to record this and add it to the blog, and which will be out on Thursday, and I'll send you all an email with the link to the blog so that you can share it or watch it again. Gerardo also asks how much. So our complete compliance solution is, it's depends on if you're an owner-operator, you pay a one-time or a yearly fee of $300, which works out to be about $25 a month. And if you're a fleet of 10 or more, you can do that as a monthly charge as well. So Gerardo also asks, is Dashlink an AOBRD or an ELD? So currently, Dashlink can be used as either an ELD or as an AOBRD. So what we really recommend that you do is use it as an AOBRD and take advantage of that flexibility. And then when you're ready to, and once you've had some time to get comfortable with it, you can turn, basically it's just a really quick software upgrade that you can do from your app, and you can just switch it over to ELD mode. Can I run Dashlink as an AOBRD? Yes. So eventually, will an AOBRD not be compliant after the December 2019 deadline? So that's correct. After December 2019, you can no longer use an AOBRD, but in the case of Big Road's Dashlink, it's just a quick switch, and then it is functional as an ELD as well, so you won't need to swap out the hardware or anything like that. Where do I buy the AOBRD Dashlink? So Brendan, I can ask a member of our sales team to contact you after the webinar and make sure that you have all the information that you need. So no more paper logs after December 2017, Gerardo asks. No, once December 18th, 2017 hits, the only acceptable records of duty status will be done through an electronic logging device or an AOBRD. Can you make an error correction on the AOBRD like the Big Road mobile app? So the AOBRD or Dashlink, using Dashlink as an AOBRD is a lot more flexible than using it as an ELD, but it's not going to be like 100% flexible. as the mobile app is. So you can still make error corrections and annotate them, but you can't totally edit your drive time or like completely delete your drive time. You'll still need to just make corrections that are mistakes rather than just swapping out the information. So a few more questions like that. If we have several, Alan asks, if we have several vehicles in the fleet using the Dashlink, can additional Dashlinks be added after December this year and be an AOBRD? So no, once you have to have the Dashlink installed, you have to have an AOBRD installed before that December 2017 deadline in order to continue to use them as an AOBRD. So what we're having a lot of people actually do and ask us if they can do is stockpile a few of them now, and then so that they can still have that flexibility in the future, even if they don't need it quite yet. They're stockpiling them and using them once so that they can continue to use them as an AOBRD once the extension, once the ELD mandate deadline this December rolls out. And afterwards, everything that you'll buy after December 18th, 2017 will need to be full ELD functionality. Okay, so that looks like that's it for questions. Please feel free to email me if you have any more questions, and I'll be posting this on the Big Road blog if you'd like to see the answers to your questions. So thanks for joining me, everyone, and have a great afternoon.